All right, great morning to you, Facebook land, and I guess we're on YouTube as well. We are going to be introducing a dad today, and I didn't know this, but he's a very successful engineer, works with some of the biggest brand names in Southern Texas. So this, I had somebody comment this morning, this sounds like a single mom problem. And Carlos is going to say it is absolutely not a single mom, a single mom problem. It is a parenting problem. And parents all over the world are dealing with these issues. And I'm going to talk about running away, the school calling every day, hitting, kicking, screaming, all sorts of issues going on at home. And we're here to breathe life into you. If you're watching, if you're a parent and you're struggling and you feel a little lost and you're wondering, why doesn't my kid care about anything? And it doesn't seem to matter what I do. They just won't listen to me. If that's you, you're in the right place, listening to the right story. So I'm going to pass it over to Tom to introduce Carlos.
Yes. Just give a little pre-frame here. The ratio for the last 30, 40 years seems to be like a 9-to-1. More moms are 9, but there's always the dads that step up. And what I mean by this is across the board, parents have a nightmare that they're living, that they've been taught to keep it secret, not to talk about it, and things of this nature. And enough is enough. We're starting to wake up, and the parents are usually the mom that comes out and goes, "Hey, could you help me fix my kid?" Meanwhile, the dads have also started to take a stake and a stand up, because at the end of the day, are we all doing something with our kids? Absolutely. And I tip my hat off to you, because the other option was just make them a neglect. So you're at least doing something. But as we go forward to the next level, we're all, quote unquote, doing our best, but our best isn't cutting it. And so we always rely on some kind of good story, whether it's a label or you don't understand my situation. There's always a good story, like the dog ate my homework. And then a third element is where we step in. And I'm going to ask you the question: are you willing to do what is required? And this is what separates the masses to the select few. And this is where Carlos is one of those dads that's letting go of the good stories. I'm doing my best, because he knows it's not cutting it. And he's willing to do what is required. And what is required are the 12 principles of creating champions for life.
All right. So, Carlos, can you just take a few minutes and introduce yourself, your family, what you were experiencing before Creating Champions for Life existed in your world?
Sure, absolutely. Again, my name is Carlos Garza. I live in South Texas, and I have three children, two girls and one boy. So my son's 9, and then I have the girls are 12 and 18. And creating Champion for Life really became my inspiration. Really dealing with my son. We affectionately call him Charlie, and he is what I call the poster child of this. You know, you got things like ODD, DMDD, ADHD. All these terms that are thrown out there. The reality is, my son got kicked out of 2 preschools, private preschools that we were paying for. We had trouble with them in private elementary. We moved them to public schools, seeking some of the publicly available resources. Recently, we just removed him from the public school he was at because he was having so many troubles with that school. And out of out of desperation, I just sit at night and Google, and I was not on Facebook, I was not on Instagram, I was not on TikTok or none of that social media other than my LinkedIn, which was for my business and strictly just business. And somehow, by the grace of God, I came across one of your videos, Bonnie. I tried to open it. It was on Facebook. I couldn't open it because I didn't have a Facebook account. So I went and created a Facebook account just for the sake of looking at your video. Uh, then I saw on there that you had some other videos on TikTok. So guess what? I went and opened TikTok account, and I think I've seen every one of your videos at least 5 times. And so I approached, you know, his mom and said, "Look, I've discovered this. I think they're onto something. I found out about your book. I pre-ordered the book on Amazon before it came out, not knowing that you were going to have then the electronic version, or we had the electronic version. Now I got the electronic version on my iPad, on my phone. I got access to it on my computer. But it
Before you share the good part, just so that the moms and dads who are watching are like, well, he doesn't know my story or whatever, wherever this might go. Can you share, like, was there emotional turmoil going on in your house? What all things did you try? Did you do therapy? Was he on medication? Did he have some formal diagnosis? What was going on emotionally for you and your family?
all of the above, all of the above. We've seen psychiatrists, play therapy, cognitive behavior, um, medications, different medications, psychologists, psychiatrists, change of environment, different city. I mean, we tried everything. His mom quit her job so we could better take care of him while he was still in preschool age before he got into elementary, hoping that that extra time would help him. All of the above. I mean, and the continuous hitting. I mean, going on vacations, having plates flying across dining tables, tantrums in places. It makes you feel like you're the only one. It makes you feel like it's a hidden club, right? That no one wants to talk about. Such a taboo to talk about. Oh, my kid ain't got the terrible twos. He's got the terrible period. And it we tried everything. I mean, and we pull you want to pull your hair out. You talked about you being in fetal position, in crying. I mean, I saw his mom, crying. I've cried, over it. um
Now, these are
he's
facts, correct? This is real
100%.
life experience. In your world, this is a fact. There's not one person that could convince you that that didn't happen.
Oh no, absolutely. It I lived it every day. He's nine
Good.
years old.
How did you feel every day?
It's a failure. I mean, you feel as a parent as a failure. I pride myself. I run a successful engineering company. I own the company. Uh, his mom and I are both well educated. We have master's degrees, and everything else. And you're like, where did I fail? We joke that he was born angry. I mean but it all started. We started seeing it when he was about 18 months, 24 months, where the tantrums were really, really ramping up.
Yeah, wow.
Um,
And if there's anybody watching that is experiencing this as well, share with us in the comments. Say hi to Carlos. Share, where are you? What are you experiencing? And how cool is it that we have a dad who found me on YouTube, opened a TikTok channel just to watch the videos, started a Facebook just to be able to be part of the community? Hands, high five to you, Dad. You are not a failure. And I want to say this to all the moms and dads listening. We're not, we might feel like we're failing because I've been there, but you're
if you
not a
feel
failure.
To the parents, if there's anybody watching this live or watches the recording, if you feel you're alone, don't. You're not alone. I mean, it is truly, truly a reality, and I mean, you ask me how did I feel? I mean, like an absolute failure. I mean, you feel like an absolute failure of a parent. It's like, where did I go wrong? What did I do? What did I miss the manual? Where was that parenting book that I was supposed to get? That didn't tell me how to do these things. I mean, and we talk about eating, we talk about yelling. You know, when they can't talk really, they're just screaming. When they can talk, they talk back. If not, they grab whatever's at hand, whether it be a phone, an eraser, a marker, a toy, um, flying across the house, hitting the walls, like the dents on the. I mean, it's a reality. And I'm on day 67 of the 90-day challenge, and I thought that I was gonna pick up the phone and call you guys and saying, "Hey, can you send me that recipe on how to fix my son?" Very quickly, I realized that the one that needed fixing was me, not my son.
Yeah, very good insight, Carlos.
Yeah,
Not saying
powerful.
that's worth saying again, but if we, I remember asking you some very powerful questions because I want to know in just a moment what was it in the videos that got your attention. But before we cover that, do you remember when we talked briefly and asked you, or I believe it was Bonnie that probably just nipped it in the bud and said, "Who's older, you or Charlie?" And you said,
Well, me,
"Me."
obviously.
Who decided to have kids, you or Charlie?
Yep. It's mom
And
and
then
I.
there's a universal truth called cause and effect, where every effect has a cause and every cause creates an effect. So in this relationship, who's the leader? Like, who's the cause and who's the effect? And after a dramatic pause, there was an aha moment that clicked for you at that moment. False or true?
True.
Good. Because if you can change, you have the power to create a new change. And so, what was it in those videos that you never had an account for whatever reason, like wasted time? Who knows what your reason was, but you got one specifically just to watch what you shared earlier was like an answer to your parenting prayers. And you watched a lot of them, but what was in it that you could share that made you go, thank you for answering my parenting prayers? What was it?
Well, here in Bonnie, I remember the first video was, was one of those videos where Bonnie mentioned, I have four children, a divorced mom, struggle, all four kids, diagnosis, ADHD, and all this other stuff. I don't remember all the diagnoses that she listed on the video, but I remember it basically speaking to me. I was like, well, did she write that video? Did she record that video superimposing names and talking about my life? Because that's what it sounded like to me. It was like, that's my life. That's my kid. And I responded to her. It was like, I think you recorded this video talking about me and my son. And it just spoke to me. I mean, it really did. It sounds kind of corny, but it was just like, let me research it. And I reached out to Bonnie and I said, hey, when would you have time to meet to talk about this? And I'll never forget. She reached out to me via text and said, I'm available the next 15 minutes if you're available. And I said, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I just got called from his school and I'm rushing to the school because it's a 911. I mean, I had the school on speed dial basically. And if I saw the name of the school pop up on my caller ID, everything else dropped. Everything else just dropped. And it was
Yeah.
a,
I think that other parents watching can totally relate with you. Chelsea said, same here, Carlos. And Tiffany said, same here. My youngest was angry from the get go. So you're definitely not alone. And you being here sharing your story is super powerful and super, I think, empowering for the parents out there. So you're having all these experiences. Your little one is showing aggressive behavior at home and at school, threatening other kids, threatening to take his own life, getting calls from the school. Like you were really at a stress level of, I would say, out of 10. Well, what was your stress level number?
12.
A 12 out of 10. And so, you've tried everything, the psychologist, the therapist, the medication, the labels, everything, nothing was working.
Um,
Now he's 9 years old.
Behavioral
And
hospitals. I mean, he'd been hospitalized mandated by the school because of the threats. He's sent to alternative school at age 9. I remind you, at age 9, he
right.
got sent to alternative school. Um, and it the educators at the school have been wonderful with us in regards to being patient, but they just don't know how to handle you know the cause and effect, and so it's very hard to speak with the educators, and I can't change the schools. I can't change how the principals or the teachers or the kids act with my kid, but I can change myself, and I can change in how I help them in dealing and trying to see. Okay. It's not a magic wand. So if people are out there looking at this thing thinking that you too have the holy grail of parenting, I mean, but you really are onto something, and you really are onto something that is really working. My goal was, I said, if I'm able to help my son reduce even 50% of the medications he's taking, I've done a great job, because
Yeah.
doing something is better than nothing, you know. I mean, just do something. I mean, buy
Wow.
your book, buy your book. I'm not getting a commission out of anything sales or your book or anything else, but I'm just saying is, you know, buy the book, read it,
Yeah.
read it.
Right.
You know what? Join your live streams. I mean, listen to some of this, some of the things, you know. And there's been some parents, I mean, so in the groups, as we're going through the 90-day challenge, and some of the parents have really become the inspiration. I mean, because there's days that you just feel like throwing in the towel.
Well, you said something really powerful. I want to bring a magnifying glass to. You said that the educators that you were working with at the school had no idea how to deal with Charlie, how to help your family. You've been through the psychologist, the medication, all these things, and they really have no idea how to authentically help from the inside out either. Because how many years did you do that path for, the psychologist and the medication and the diagnosis and this and that? How many years?
I mean, we're still there. I mean, we're still right now. And so, I mean, it's been, 7 years. I mean,
Seven
it's still,
years.
I mean, so when the first psychologist was, no psychologist wanted to see him because he was under five, and so it's like, well, there's no medical professional. I was like, well, but I mean, we're taught that if you're sick, you go to a doctor, right? I mean, you go to a
Yep.
doctor that's, behavioral. So he's like, okay, well, I can't help him because he's not old enough. I was like, well, who can help him? You know,
Yeah.
but
That's really hard.
I mean, the schools do have the best of intentions. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
I mean, they have the no, but no educator, no school wants to see a child fail, and they've been wonderful in working with us, but they just don't know how to handle children with these problems. I mean, you got the special education teachers and all these other people that are willing and very very much accommodating and sacrificing into them. And I tell those educators they earn their spot in heaven, you
Yes,
know.
I would agree
Um,
100% on that,
1000%.
Carlos. And I worked with a very large Highline School District when I had my after school martial art program called Creating Champions for Life. And there was 28 schools, and I knew all the principals and I knew all the teachers. They all have a heart of gold going in with best intentions. But as I always heard from them time and time again, our hands are tied on very limited things that we can do, and they're all doing the best they can with the tools that they have. And the metaphor that some of them even said, you know, I'm here to chop down the tree. I know it's a dull axe, but they won't let me sharpen it the way it should be sharpened to do what's right for the situation. So I can easily relate. And yes, they are doing the best they can. But at the end of the day, what does that mean to you? You've got a boy that you've got a moral obligation to prepare to launch out of the nest. And if you're taught that, hey, I don't know, and I go to you in the white coat with the thing that somehow here's my heart, and you don't know either, how lost were you before you found us?
extremely lost. I
Okay.
mean,
So with
you
that
know,
being said, I want to bring you into, you've been here. We introduced a fast track emergency type of a thing, a 90-day challenge due to where your starting was. And in about 60 days, we're talking 2 months. What type of things have you been able to either release or create more of on your journey in just 2 months, even though we're just getting started? What would be a highlight reel?
Um, Charlie making breakfast 100% by himself without direction other than me turning on the stove to put the temperature setting and him being ecstatic about making breakfast.
First
And
time in his life
yes,
at age 9.
yes, sir.
Wow, what a beautiful highlight reel. What if that was one of many? What's number 2 highlight reel?
Um, Playing in the backyard, him going deciding to go play in the backyard rather than running in the house, when I just simply said, "Hey Charlie, where is the best place to run rather than inside the house?"
Now let's just dramatically pause right there. You did one of our principles. It was just called asking questions versus dictating. And we talked about who's the cause in this whole relationship. And it's you. He's the effect. You changed your cause. You created a whole new effect for this amazing kid who went out in the backyard and knew the answer and demonstrated it. Did I hear you correct?
Correct.
I'm not saying we got time for all 100 of them, but let's just find maybe 1 or 2 more highlight reels before we wrap up today. What would be highlight reel number 3?
Last Friday, I took him to dinner, um, and my daughter was missing a spoon, and her straw had a hole. We all had the straw that bends and kind of suck in air, so she was struggling with it. And I was gonna go get it. He's like, "No, Dad, I'll go get it. Let me do it." I let him get up and walk the restaurant, find where the spoons were, or ask an employee and bring the items back.
Now, let me echo this
That's
back.
amazing.
First time in his life?
Of truly willingly volunteering to go that way, so willingly, you can see it in the attitude. Not that it was the first time he went and got a straw. It was just the first time that he was ecstatic. I mean, it's like kind of, Dad, come on, let me go do it. Let me go do it.
So I'm going to echo that back as a yes.
Yes.
Okay. That was just 3 examples. Now, you're a businessman, probably pretty good, not to toot your horn, but you're pretty smart. Yes.
Yes.
You know about investing in things and what is called a ROI, better known as.
Return on investment.
So, do you have to reroute some of your time in order to learn to speak kid? And this is a yes. Did you
Yes.
also have to reroute or maybe recalculate some of your funding into your education? And this is a yes.
Yes.
So talk just briefly before we get wrapping up with Bonnie here. Talk about your ROI from your business perspective of what you've done by making this decision.
You know, the return on my investment, I mean, it's been, you know, twofold. I mean, it's just really what it has allowed me to do. Yes, you have to change your mindset of when you do this. Find the time. Everybody has 10, 15 minutes of in a day. You just have to find the time. Make the commitment of when to do it. I decided that my commitment to it is first thing in the morning when I get to my office. I do it right here in front of, I went and bought an iPad just for the whole purpose of having this. So I wouldn't need to be doing it on my computer, and I can more mobile. Um, and just finding the time to do it, and the return on investment, it's my peace of mind feeling. I don't feel as a failure anymore. I feel like I'm improving every day in how I manage and how I educate I say my son, it's all my kids, but I mean this whole basis was over for my son, because ultimately, as we have, our index cards and everything else, is to learn your role as a parent, and learn your role as a parent. And so many of us just forget what it is that we want to do, what our intention is as a parent.
Yes. I think you answered my last question before I hand it over to Bonnie. What's the best thing you like about your journey so far?
My
And it sounds
growth.
like knowing your growth, and actually maybe for the first time knowing your role as a parent on the positive side of the spectrum. It's not
Correct.
sanitary to put words in your mouth, but how close am I?
No, very close. I mean, my job on earth is not to buy Legos. My job on earth is not to buy a motorcycle. It's not to buy a car. It's not to pay for college. My job is, you know, to teach my kids life skills so that if something happened to me tomorrow and I was not walking this earth tomorrow, he would not be starving to death on the side of the road, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to open a door, not to know how to, ask for a glass of water, how to, ask for food or how to prepare his own food.
Beautiful.
And it, a lot of people say, well, that's cruel. The people will think of it as being cruel. Well, if I make $200,000 a year, why shouldn't I buy them Legos? No different than if you make $20,000 a year. Why should you buy them Legos? But they can earn them, and they can earn. I'm gonna share with you right now. This is a recycling container. It's empty. Was up to here this morning. Charlie came to my office this morning because he was here with me this morning. He came in, knocked on my office, said, "Dad, is there anything I can do?" I said, "For free, or you want to earn something?" He's like, "No, I don't need to earn. I was thinking he was going to say, I'll do it for $1. He was like, "No, I don't need to do anything. I have a big bin here at the office with all the recycling." He took it, huffing and puffing because the thing was heavy. Um, I didn't open the door for him. My office has a door. It's a glass door, self-closing door. So he managed to open it, put his butt to it, and shush it open. In all this, I'm just looking at him and all like, okay, look at his little brain working.
Yes.
Went and put it in, taking all the papers out. There were some pieces of paper that fell on the floor. He finished the job, and then I went over there and I was like, "You did a great job. You did a great job at this, Charlie." And then it's like everything went into that container. He goes, "Yes, right there." And then he turned over and looked at the container, found two pieces, two little post-its that were on the floor. He was like, "Oh, I missed two pieces." Grabbed them, you know, put them in the little slot. But he asked, "What can I do?
That's
What
a big deal.
willing to
Mhm.
participate."
That's a really big deal because the biggest one of the biggest lies that we're operating with, we're being told about our kids, is that they can't do it. They can't focus. They can't maintain self-control. It's as if there's something wrong with their brain. Now, did Charlie know through the last 7 years of being medicated, going to psychologists and counseling and getting in trouble at school, does he know that he has these behavior disorder labels? Like, does he has it been talked about around him, do you think?
Yes, I mean they've been talked and tossed around them, and the way I look at it is, if I sit here and we try not to, because my son's not broken. My son is not broken. My son is not defective. He is my son. Okay, I try not to cry. He he's amazing. His mom and I are blessed to have him. His sisters are blessed to have him, and those that get to spend time with him come to realize. I mean, because you see him when he's good. Damn, he's good. He's wonderful. But when we have those moments that are not so good, whew, they're tough. And I told you I was going to try not to get teary eyed, but sorry, guys.
No, it's
It's it
absolutely
it's
okay. It's okay. You just feel that emotion for a minute. Hey, give Carlos a heart, a like, a comment. Give him some like show him how appreciative you are of him coming on here, being vulnerable, sharing his story. This is a really powerful story, and I know what it's like, Carlos, because every time I share my story about my kids and the lies that I believed about them and watching them completely transform, and it took some time, like you said. It's not an overnight uh get get rich fast. No, get fixed fast program.
yeah,
Like,
it's not a gimmick. It's not a gimmick of
right.
I mean, we all seen the infomercials with the solution to the, you know, we all seen the guy patching up a hole, right? And no matter what conditions, it's perfect. I mean, um, you
Right.
know, my son is fortunate enough to have his mom and his dad. You know, we are his trusted advisors, and we are his biggest cheerleaders, and his sisters also. We all love him. I mean, his grandparents. We all. I mean, you know, his aunts and uncles. I mean, we all. Everyone calls him. It's like, "How's Charlie doing today? How's Charlie doing?" I mean, everyone wants to see him succeed. You know, I don't think anybody wants has a child and holding them um, with that white blanket that they wrap them with blue and red in the pretty uniform. That's a whole other story about the story about the blankets with the hospitals. But
Wow.
no one holds that baby in the nursery and looks at that baby and says, God, I hope he's a failure.
Right. So what would you say to moms, dads watching this who are where you were 2 months ago, kind of lost, not knowing what to do? What would you say to them now?
Don't be afraid to try it because you've tried everything else, and everything else has come to a screeching halt at some point. Whether, it might be a temporary fix and it works. I mean, upping the medication works for a little bit, but he grows up, his body titrates. You want to put more medications. I mean, you know, just try something, just work with him. And I say, call you guys, reach
Yeah.
out to you guys. I mean, I really, I really have been blessed by having found you and having you guys help me. And it's me. It's not the child.
Oh, we lost Carlos. Well, cool. Well, what great timing. Oh no, he came back. He came back. We lost you for a second. I was like,
Okay,
okay,
sorry.
God said you're done.
Um, it's not the child. And it's hard to admit that it's us. I mean, when you start talking about some of the principles of overcompensating and everything else, you know, it is us.
Yeah.
You really hit the nail on the head there, because at the end of the day, if it's not you, then who's going to have your little genius offspring's best interest at heart? And if it's not this program, then what program? And if you've been through them all, you got everything to gain. And if not, when? Or if not now, then when? Those are three powerful questions that every parent out there is going to have to ask and answer, whether you know us or not.
And I just want to say this, Carlos, you're 2 months into the program, which means we're on, I think, principle 5 or 6 out of 12. There's still so much to do, but you're seeing little bits of light at the end of an overwhelming tunnel. You're seeing that he can do it. You're seeing that he can succeed. You're seeing that he can go through it for a whole day of school without getting in trouble. Not that he hasn't gotten in trouble the last 2 months, but you're seeing that he can go a whole day without getting in trouble. You're seeing that he can make breakfast. He can help out. He can do these things. So now it's a matter of creating an environment where he's always choosing to. And we're just not there yet, but appreciate you. I appreciate your effort and all you bring to the table. I appreciate your work ethic, Carlos, your willingness to show up every day and fight for the life of your child and the peace of your family. You're amazing to us. We appreciate you. And we're going to wrap up the interview. We told you 20 minutes. We've gone over 10. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here, for your time, for being a student of Creating Champions for Life. And for everybody else, thank you for joining and for commenting and liking and sharing the video. Until we meet again,
Here.
Here's
To our
to our
parenting success.
success.
Cheers.
Bye, everybody.
Bye for now.